This is reckless.
Together we roar, together we grow. Detroit Lions will rise, with our hearts full of dreams and the fire in our eyes. From the past to the future, we'll claim our own. In the home of the brave, we'll proudly have grown. So let's lift our voices, let's turn it up loud. For the love of the Lions, we'll always be proud.
Actually moved. I know that there was a report that came out last night after the bowl game that sounded like the game wasn't moved, but it was. It was in fact moved. And then I want to talk about the Raiders' position. Are the Raiders pulling out all stops for Ben Johnson? Does it make sense for Ben Johnson? Only he can answer that, but I'm going to give my 2 cents on the topic. Mike Tomlin. How good has Mike Tomlin been in the NFL? Is he going to get fired if he doesn't win a Super Bowl this year? We'll get into the wild card injury report, bring you guys up to date on what's going on with this weekend's games. And then, of course, Lions news, injury updates, health of the roster, kind of where they're at this weekend. David Montgomery, Ennis Rakestraw. Lions coaches and team personnel are getting poached. Or are they? We don't know yet. We'll find out soon enough. We got plenty of topics for you guys this morning, but Eric Rintamaki, good morning, buddy. How are you?
Fantastic as always, man. And yes, Brandy Coffee in the chat. I was singing along to the theme song. I do it every morning and nobody notices. So thank you for noticing. I finally pretty much memorized all the words.
Yeah, I never put up the lyrics to it, did I?
No, and I really I'm a heavy metal hard rock guy, so pulls at my heartstrings. You know, I want to be out there playing it myself, but can't do her for right now.
So anyway, yesterday we got I don't know if it was really shocking news, but you guys remember yesterday. I'm just going to skip to one topic here. I was talking about Hank Fraley yesterday morning, and this is a guy that I've been talking about for months, honestly. You could go back and listen to many episodes where I'm talking about Hank Fraley and how good he is and how come he's not being considered for head coaching job or offensive coordinator or something, right? At least offensive coordinator. And I've said it all season. And I figured at some point that this was going to happen. And yesterday I'm like, man, just keep his name out of your mouth right now because this is a guy we don't want to lose. And as soon as we hang up the morning show, like not even an hour later, Tom Pelissero breaks the content that Hank Fraley is in fact interviewing for the Seattle Seahawks offensive coordinator position. It may be the only interview. I haven't heard of any other interviews at this point. But I have to say, man, we have a pretty good pulse on this team on Rocked On Detroit Lions, and I really see what's going on with a lot of these coaches and how good that they've been, just like Aaron Glenn. You know, a lot of people wanted to throw him in the trash can. Certain individuals thought he was a terrible offense or a terrible defensive coordinator. I never thought so. I mean, do I think that he gets stubborn? Sure. Do I think that he makes mistakes? Everybody does. But I never for 1 minute doubted that Aaron Glenn wasn't a solid NFL mind. Otherwise, why would Dan Campbell keep him around for 4 seasons? I just don't see that happening. And so now Aaron Glenn obviously doing his thing right now. He's more of a hot commodity than Ben Johnson at this point. I'm not surprised. And I'm really not surprised about Hank Fraley. I just don't want to see that this offensive line lose, you know, their heart, right? Their heart and soul of this offensive line is Hank Fraley. Besides each other, I mean, he's their guy. So anyway, when you saw that, Eric, yesterday, what was going through your mind?
My heart sank. Like literally, I felt it in my chest. I'm like, oh, no, we were just talking about this. No. So first thing I did when I saw it, I texted you about it. And of course, I was hours later. But oh, man, just that whole gut-wrenching feeling like when you get some really bad news about your grandma or something, you know, it just pulled at my heartstrings. I don't want to lose the guy. I don't want to lose a bunch of these guys, and I have to wonder with like Ben Johnson, well, first with Hank Fraley, this is his first interview for a step up, as far as I know. And usually you got to do a few interviews before you get the job, right? You don't usually just land it on your first interview. So with a lot of these other guys, like how many interviews has Ben done? How many interviews has Aaron Glenn done? They've done quite a few already. And now they're finally in the cycle where somebody's going to take them. And some of it has to do with them either not wanting the job or the job not wanting them. And I'm hoping that this is just Frank dipping his toes into the water to see what happens. Let's give it a shot. I'm never going to get an OC job unless I start taking interviews. So I'm hoping that's what this is. Frank trying his hand at doing interviews for an OC job. Let you know he's got aspirations.
Yeah, some coaches, they just don't want to move up. A lot. Yeah. They're comfortable. And Mark Brunell is one of those guys that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, or last week actually, with the Jacksonville Jaguars position. Coming across the news that Greg Huntington, the former offensive lineman, reaching out to Mark Brunell after we wiped the floor with the Jaguars and move heaven and earth, bring Ben Johnson here if the job becomes available, because at the time the job wasn't available. Well, the job became available, and to credit to that conversation, Mark Brunell is making a lateral move again, according to that conversation. Mm-hmm. If Ben goes to Jacksonville, that Mark would stay in the same position that he is now, which is the quarterback's coach. So some coaches just don't want to move up. Some really love what they do. They're really good at what they do. They enjoy what they do. Maybe they don't want the extra long hours being an OC, DC, or HC, but sometimes some coaches just want to stick to what they do best. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you love what you do, it's not work, right? You wake up and you get to eat and breathe, everything that you love to do in life, that's not work. And so I understand that. And that's why some of these coaches aren't getting passed over, right? Some people in the league just know, hey, that guy doesn't want to be an OC, or this guy doesn't want to be a DC. And to your point, maybe he is just dipping his toes and just trying to get on the circuit, trying to see what it's like, get to meet a few more people around the league. But Hank is a guy we can't lose, man. He's done an excellent job with that offensive line. My question is this, and we'll move on to some NFL news, and I'm going to leave this question kind of hanging, and we'll come back to it. My question is, do the Lions get better when and if we lose a handful of coaches this season? It's expected. We're going to lose at least 2. Do we get better at those coaching positions? That's a question I'm going to leave to you guys in the chat, in the comments later. And if you think we get better, who do you think it's going to be from? What coaches, either at the collegiate level or in the NFL currently today, who would it be? Who would be replacing the guys that we're about to lose? And Eric, don't answer it now. We'll come back to it, maybe towards the end of the show. And I want to see what people think. So last night, pretty epic bowl game. Penn State, Notre Dame. Just clash of the old Titans, right? What a hell of a game last night. And I have to give a shout out to Talkin' Football Podcast because, one, I was late. We were trying to get some of their podcasts cut up and get some of their notes out. And I ended up getting, the Orange Bowl stuff out right as the game was getting going. And as I was listening to it, Dan had put a prediction that this game was going to come down to a 1-point deficit for Notre Dame, and they were going to kick a field goal to win. And I'm like, man, that sounds like an Eric call, right? just wild, the game is knotted up. At the end of the game, an interception happens. Notre Dame kicks a field goal to win. I'm like, wait a second here. Of course, I had to send them a message like, all right, which one of you was it that called it? Because I remember distinctly hearing you guys called a field goal to win. And this is why their bets, now again, use the disclaimer, bet responsibly. Don't bet at all if you can't afford to lose it. These guys hit on parlay after parlay after parlay. And the more you get to know these guys, the more you get to listen to them, the more you're going to understand them. So you've got like Texas fans, Chiefs fan, is it a Titans fan or is it a Jags fan? I think Teresa's a Titans fan, if I'm not mistaken. So they're kind of all over the place, right? But both college and NFL, it is really hard to be great at both. And matter of fact, I'm not going to give the nuggets away, but one of them is related to an insider. So there's that. They have really good knowledge, really good foundation. And we're going to be working on the audio and video components of the show because they've always done audio only. And now that we're transitioning to a video podcast as well, we'll work on it. So just be a little patient with it as we fix a few things. But, man, these guys got it, man. They know their stuff. Really, really good topics. Really fun to watch. Trace, big shout out to you. $5 super chat says, smash those like buttons, chat. We need 75 for ads to be off. And we will turn ads off as soon as we hit 75 likes. That does help our stream. And if you're new to the channel this morning, I mean, this is just a glimpse of what you're going to get. You're going to get high-level overviews of what's going on in the NFL. We're going to highlight, insiders and what they're putting out there as far as articles, and then our own opinions and our own work on what we think is going on with the NFL. And, of course, your hometown team, the Detroit Lions. We do crossover podcasts with many different teams, people, types of podcasts, guests, and that's only going to elevate this year. We're going to have more guests on consistently this next season. Once the new season starts, this show's going to change. So if you're new, please hit the subscribe button, if I could talk this morning, and join us, man. So every 250 subscribers, once we hit 8,000, I'm going to do the mini helmet giveaway. We got Panay Sewell and Chris Spielman. This could be the last season with Chris Spielman, so these helmets could be worth a lot of money. I'm just saying. So hit the subscribe button. Every 250, I'm going to give one away. These things are already valued over $100 anyway, because they're autographed, a certificate of authenticity. But I want you to win one. I've handed out at least 20 of these things this year. And part of that was some raffles. Part of that was just for fun. Part of it was, for winners of subscribership. So, again, appreciate all you guys. Love that you guys join us every single morning. Best community on the planet is right here on Rock On Detroit Lions. Eric, before we get going, is there anything on your mind this morning?
Looks like we only need about 30 more subs to hit 8,000. That's pretty incredible. When I joined in with you, I think you had between 5,000 and 6,000. So that's pretty good since February?
It was a year ago, right?
Last February, yeah.
Yeah, I think I had maybe 2,500.
Oh, I thought
then?
it was 5,000.
No,
Okay.
I think I've had about 2,500 back then.
Wow. That's crazy.
We're growing pretty fast. I mean, I don't ask all the time, right? I just expect people to subscribe. But if you're like me, I watch all kinds of stuff now that's not football related.
Yeah.
I never subscribe because I don't think about it. But now I make sure I do my due diligence because the people that I listen to, I really respect the information that they're giving, and I want to make sure that I do my part. So I always subscribe because, I mean, that's what we need here to grow, right, as subscribers. So I give them my subscribe because they earn it. I listen to a lot of different styles of podcasts. not NFL all the time, not football all the time. It's life stuff. So,
well, here's one for you that's not related to football, Will. So we're gonna get your tinfoil hat out for a minute. What happened to all the drone stuff, man? It just completely. The news doesn't talk about it. There's nothing on YouTube. There's nothing anywhere about the drones anymore. It's a dead story.
Don't know if I really have an answer right now, but I think when. when all of these other things start happening, it kind of pulls the direction away, which if you're a conspiracy person, it's done on purpose, right? That they're trying to pull your attention away to other things. But I'm not going to get off into the drone thing because that's just, I'll save that for another channel someday.
All right. So here's a conspiracy theory for you, and it ties into our next subject. So the Monday night game against the Rams was moved. And it was moved to State Farm Stadium in Arizona, correct?
Yeah, Glendale, Arizona.
Yep, in Glendale, Arizona. So it's State Farm. State Farm is an insurance company. Well, about 4 months ago, all of these homes in California got their insurance pulled because there's been so many fires and earthquakes and all this other stuff going on. So all the insurance companies pulled out of California. And now what happens? Thousands of homes have burned to the ground, thousands. And it's a conspiracy theory that these were set on fire on purpose by the insurance companies. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. So
it's crazy that you just said that, because last night I had a conversation with Megan, and I'm not going to go into conspiracies on this channel. But yeah, there's something weird going on here. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of risk because it's been so dry and it's their drought season. And so the game has been moved. My heart and thoughts and prayers are obviously with everybody in California right now going through what they're going through. I mean, it's just incredible 100-mile-an-hour winds, fire coming at you, and you know, thousands and thousands of buildings are burned to the ground, and lives have been lost. And I think that's the most important thing here. It's above football, right? It's the loss of life, but the game was relocated. So here's my question. This is why I wanted to bring, you know, part of this up this morning too, is when we think of home field advantage for the Detroit Lions at Ford Field, of course, we love it, right? I mean, we know that is one of our tickets to win the game is home field advantage because of who we are as fans and what we do at Ford Field. So this game was supposed to be at the Rams Stadium, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's now not. So it's a neutral site.
Yeah.
Where does the home field advantage go to now? I don't think there is one unless everyone's able to travel. But I will say this, the Rams fans kind of suck because they don't even show up to the games half the time.
At their own stadium. So I don't know if they really had a home field advantage, but in this case, they definitely don't now. So this is an interesting game to see that nobody really has home field advantage now in this game. Now, I didn't look on maps, but someone told me that the drive from Los Angeles to Glendale is shorter than my drive from here to Ford Field. I don't know if that's true or not.
I wouldn't know that either.
I'd have to go in maps and look, but apparently it's not that long of a drive. It's the closest stadium to them. And
here's what I'm going to say, though. Look, Minnesota has a lot of expats in sunny states.
Yes.
Right? Florida, Glendale, you know, other Scottsdale, LA. So if any team is going to benefit from this, I think it's Minnesota.
It's the Vikings.
Yeah.
And I also posed a question yesterday on social media. What happens to all of these people who did not get flight insurance? Are they just screwed out of a flight to Los Angeles?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't know that the airlines are going to give a rip.
Because when COVID happened, I was scheduled to fly to New Jersey and for something to do with rocks. And it ended up not happening because of COVID. And it was right at the very beginning of COVID. And I had an Airbnb, all this other stuff. Everything got canceled. I could not go. They would not let me go. Yet I got zero back. I got not a penny back from any of that. Not a credit.
I think that if the plane's not flying anyway, because it's not getting off the ground, they should return that money because nothing was spent. No fuel was spent. No time on the plane was spent. I think that's BS. But you know what? That's big business for you, I guess. Statement from the Rams: the safety of the LA community is our top priority as of now. Our wild card playoff game remains scheduled to be played, or was scheduled to be played at SoFi, but it is now at Glendale, Arizona. So anyway, big news for the first one of the first games this weekend. Nobody really has home field advantage, but I think that this one benefits the Minnesota Vikings. So next up here, Tom Brady and the Raiders. And we'll get to Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson and what's going on with the Detroit Lions coaching. Poaching is what I'm calling it right now. It's poaching. They're poaching Detroit Lions coaches at this point, and it could be a bunch of them. There's some other news that happened yesterday with another coach that got interviewed, and we'll talk about all that here coming up probably in the second hour. But Raiders, Tom Brady. Here's my question. So there was some things coming out yesterday on the old interwebs saying that now Ben Johnson is a front runner for the Raiders position and that they're going to move they got to do what they got to do. The Raiders are going to do what they do with a blank check to get Ben Johnson to be the Raiders head coach. And I got to thinking for a minute, like, didn't they just hire? They just hired Antonio Pierce and Telesco in 24. And you didn't even give them a year to put everything together? That just, to me, my question is this. Could Ben Johnson or any other head coach candidate trust the Raiders to have any sort of patience? Does Tom Brady believe in patience? Because he's never been a part of a team that needed patience. So my question really is, will Ben Johnson be given the time needed or necessary to rebuild the Raiders? They don't have a quarterback, right? They have a depleted roster. They got a little bit on defense. I think that's a team that is going to have to be scrapped to the mud, right? And you're going to have to start rebuilding your foundation. With Ben Johnson, I think it gives you a leg up because he just did it in Detroit, so he knows what it's going to take. And if for some reason Ray Agnew is interested in that job, then maybe Ray Agnew is inserted as a GM for Ben, so he has a working relationship with somebody, because that's what it really takes. And that's what I read with the Raiders, is they're looking to install a head coach and a GM that are going to work cooperatively together. They're going to be attached to the hip. Their main focus is making sure that the new pair of the head coach and the GM, like I said, they'll be attached at the hip. So I guess for me, I just don't see the Raiders giving them enough time. But realistically, what would happen with the rest of that roster? So they're going to have to make some moves, right? They're going to want to cut some high salary. They're going to want to get rid of some players that maybe are, on the outs. They're going to want to get younger, which means that they're going to live through the draft. So they're going to do everything that they can to add more draft picks. Here's the name I'm going to throw at you. It's a name that's been floated for quite a while to the Detroit Lions. Max Crosby. What happens with Max Crosby? If Ray Agnew and Ben Johnson go to the Raiders, does Max Crosby get shipped to Detroit? Because now that there's a better link, maybe a better deal, and the Raiders can jumpstart their rebuild. Something I'm thinking about. So I can't wait to see all the scalpers on YouTube take that topic today. Because nobody else is thinking about this stuff but me.
Yeah.
All right. What do you think?
Well, the Las Vegas Raiders, they went 4-13 last year. They own the number 6 pick in the draft. So 3 weeks ago, the QB needy Raiders had an inside track to the number 1 pick, and seemingly a clear path to Shadir Sanders or Cam Ward, and Aiden O'Connell had something to say about it, as the Raiders went on to win 2 of their last 3 to fall out of the top 5. Man, Aiden O'Connell just sabotaged your coach and your GM out of getting the number 1 pick. How bad is that?
I never thought about it that way. So, I mean, Aiden O'Connell obviously wants to win. He wants to win a position. He is not, in my opinion, he's not a franchise quarterback.
No, he's
and I think that whatever GM or the head coach combined, they go to whatever team that they're going to go to. They want their own quarterback. Yep. By and large, they want their own brand of players. They want their own style of players. They have to meet, the conditions that they set forth for their team to be, and what identity and culture that's going to be. I assume it's going to be very similar, again, if it's Ben and Ray, to what the Lions have already established. So I didn't expect or think, I didn't think that Aiden O'Connell kind of sabotaged, maybe not by purpose, but he kind of sabotaged, them getting the 1 pick, the first pick in the NFL draft. And maybe that's why Pierce and Telesco got fired, because they couldn't even successfully manage a throwing of the rest of the season.
Tanking, yeah. Because literally they were the number 1 pick. They had it 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, and then they went on to win 2 out of their last 3, and they went from 1 to 6, and they finished with a 4-13 record. So did those 2 games mean anything? And like I saw an article yesterday, or someone complaining, I guess, that the NFL needs a draft system that is more of a lottery system like the NBA, because then you don't have teams like all these bottom teams not trying at the end of the season. And I just think once you're out of it, if you tank, that's fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, trying to get a better draft pick. I see nothing wrong with tanking at the end of the season. That's just my personal opinion.
Now, I'm just throwing this out off the top of my head. I don't even know how it would work, and I don't know that it's even plausible. But
yeah,
let's say forget the NBA draft lottery, forget all that, right? Forget the way that the NFL is doing it right now. Let's just say the most, you just do it by the wins, right? If you win the Super Bowl, you get the last pick, right? If you're second place, you get the second to last pick. And you do it that way. You reward them for their wins, not their losses. I think that's how you have to go about it. You need to reward these people for their wins, not their losses. So I guess I said that backwards. If you win the Super Bowl, you get the first pick.
There you go.
Right? If you have the worst, record in the league, well, then you get the last pick. And if you're tied, if there's multiple teams that are tied, I guess there would have to be some sort of a tiebreaker scenario. However they would figure that out, I'm sure they could figure it out. But I think that, a reward system for doing better and not worse has always been the answer in life, right? You don't reward kids in, first grade for doing terribly. No, you reward them for doing well. And I'm not saying, we want to hand out participation trophies or anything, but you've got to win to stay in. The other way to look at it is maybe they just cut bait one year and just say, okay, we're just going to start here, and it's just going to be a round robin. So in 31 years, at some point you'll have the one pick. I just don't think that works. I don't think that happens. So
yeah. No, hey, and I just got reminded about something in the chat, something we haven't done in quite a while. We haven't given a shout out to those in the chat. So J-Rod, here's your shout out. We didn't forget about you, buddy. So we got a whole bunch of people in the chat this morning. One Major Pain, Lankser, RP, Mike P, Full State Farms. He must had something to do with the stadium there.
He's been around for a minute.
Yeah. Kyle Defoe, 40 Gumble, Trace, Andy, Lorne, Southwest Lion, Jay-Z, Gary Thompson, J-Rod, number 16, RP. Let's see, John Desage. Let's see here, David Napier, Orner U of M Dad. Yeah, we got a whole bunch of people in here today, and I can't get to all of them, but man, thank you guys all. We got 216 people in right now. That's pretty awesome for a Friday Friday morning. I'm thinking it's afternoon already.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? It's already the 10th of January. We just had New Year's Day.
Remember in the beginning of the season, we said we're going to blink and we're going to be at the end. We're at the end.
Yep. And I blinked twice and we're here. All right. So next up, let's talk about a guy that's had a head coach, been around for a long time in the NFL. His name is Mike Tomlin, Pittsburgh Steelers. He's got a hell of a winning record. He's never had a losing season as a head coach. He's been 500 or better in every season that he's been around. But what he's being called right now is the best regular season coach in NFL history. Now, using that term, regular season, kind of tells you that he doesn't do crap in the postseason. Even though he makes the playoffs more often than not, should the Steelers have won more games in the postseason under Mike Tomlin, given the teams that they've had, the records that they've had? I would say yes. Now, he's gone 183 wins to 107 losses and 2 ties in the regular season, but he's only gone 8-10 in the playoffs. So he has more losses than wins in the playoffs. That also includes the 3 wins from the 2008 season when the Pittsburgh Steelers won the Super Bowl. So outside of their Super Bowl winning season, they only have 5 wins in the postseason, combined of all of those 18 seasons together. I mean, I think that 18 consecutive seasons without a losing record, I think that's outstanding achievement. But it doesn't result in a high draft pick, which you need. from time to time, it doesn't result in championships, right? You're not bringing in Super Bowls. So is Mike Tomlin a coach that they could get replaced? And if so, or replaced after, they fail in the postseason again this year, assuming that they do, which teams would pick him up? My answer is just about anybody that's looking. I don't think that Mike Tomlin is going to be off of anybody's radar if for some reason he is let go. I'm not expecting him to get let go, but this is just something that's being talked about right now. What is going on with Mike Tomlin if he falters again in the postseason? Now, he did set a very high bar for himself when he started this, right? He had an offensive powerhouse with Ben Roethlisberger, Hines Ward, Heath Miller, and eventually turned into Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, and Le'Veon Bell. And this doesn't include all of the perennial all-stars that the Steelers had on defense, who also set expectations for the Pittsburgh Steelers defense and the Steeler way. It's been a long time since the Steel Curtain, but the Pittsburgh Steelers have always been known for having a tough defense. Now, even with all that, though, Pittsburgh hasn't returned to the Super Bowl since 2011. And over the last 10 years, the Steelers have been to the playoffs 7 times. That's outstanding. But in that span, they have only won 3 games and lost 6. The 2016 playoff game, 2016 was the last time the Steelers won a playoff game. They beat Miami in a wild card in Kansas City in the divisional, but they lost to New England in the AFC Championship game. So that's my question again for you guys this morning. Mike Tomlin, if he loses again this postseason, whether it's an early loss or a second-round loss, is he going to get fired? And if he does, where does he go? Personally, I think he's a very good candidate for the Raiders job. Very good candidate. I think he's a very good candidate for the Patriots job too, but I don't think that would happen. I think there's too much bad blood there. And speaking of bad blood, we're going to talk about another coach candidate that maybe doesn't like the Patriots either. So what do you think about this, Eric? What do you think about Mike Tomlin?
The Steelers. Man, they win in the regular season. They always break 500. They almost always make the playoffs. But then they get there and bad things happen. Only once have they had that magical season with Mike Tomlin. And if you look at this weekend's game, they are playing the Ravens on Saturday. Mm-hmm. They are 9.5 point underdogs.
It's crazy.
Even
especially since they beat them this year, didn't they? In the regular season?
Yes, yeah. They beat them once. So they went 1-1 against the old Ravens this year. So what's going on? I think it's the last couple of weeks. Good old Russ Cookin has kind of fell apart in the last few weeks, and they don't know whether to switch back over to Fields or stick with Russ. I think they're just kind of discombobulated at the end of the season here. So can Mike Tomlin get them together and beat the juggernaut Ravens? I think it would be awesome if they did, but I'm not picking that way. I would not say that I would go for the Steelers in this game because it's going to be at the Ravens. Yeah.
Well, before we give away, one of the last segments today, do you even think the Raiders or the Steelers are going to cover?
I don't know.
Or I'm sorry, the Ravens, do you think that they're going to be able to cover that large point differential?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, no.
Matter of fact, I don't think that this is a lock for the Ravens at all.
No, I this is one of those games I would think it would be more like last week with the Lions and Vikings, where it's a 3-point spread, 2.5 point spread. That's like this weekend, the Vikings and the Rams spread has fluctuated quite a bit. Started off at 3.5 for the Vikings and down to 1 point now for the Vikings. So
if that spread is that big right now, I would jump on that in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
because there is no way that, in my opinion, the Ravens are going to win by more than 9.5 points.
Yeah,
I just don't see it.
Yeah,
I don't see it.
Yeah, but yeah, as far as Tomlin goes, man, who wouldn't want to coach that every year you're above 500 and every year you basically make the playoffs? And once you're in the dance, that's your chance. That's your card to the dance. You can't you can't make it all the way if you don't get to the dance. You don't get that golden ticket. So every year he gets a golden ticket. I would rather have a coach that every year has the golden ticket for a shot than a coach that makes it once every 5 or 6 years and wins it all. I don't know. I would rather my chances be better than
Well, I mean, that said too, Eric, I mean, just because you get into it every 5 or 6 years doesn't mean you're going to win it all. I mean, that just doesn't happen very often either. So good question here in the chat with Ben Johnson here. Wayne Stock 2006 says, do you think that Hendon Hooker goes with Ben Johnson if he went to Las Vegas? My quick answer is no. And that's because Hendon Hooker's under contract, so it would require a trade. So yeah, my quick answer is going to be no. I don't think that the Lions are just going to be willing to give up players to, their former coaches just because. I just don't think that's something that's, I've never even heard of something really like that happening unless the player was a free agent, which Hendon Hooker won't be.
Yeah, but let's revisit your theoretical trade when Ray Agnew and Ben Johnson go over to the Raiders. Okay. We get Max Crosby. They get Hendon Hooker and a couple of draft picks.
I mean, there I could see it. But again, I want to make sure that I'm very clear on this. I've always said from day one that the Lions will not be investing into another 20, 25, $30 million edge, pass rush or whatever you want to call it. It's just not going to happen. They haven't done it yet. If they would have done it, they would have done it this season, knowing that, they were going all in no matter what. They would have done it this season. Instead, they opted for an oft-injured Davenport that didn't even really play in 2023. So if that's the MO of Brad Holmes, which we understand Brad Holmes now, I think we might be the only people that do, because everyone else thinks that all these high-priced players are coming to Detroit. It's just not happening. It's not. They build through the draft. That is the way you build the team. Now, when you get a shot like the Lions have at the trade deadline because we've suffered a ton of injuries, you bring somebody in. And this is not like people talking about next year in the Lions bringing in another pass rusher or, extremely expensive pass rusher. Well, that's next year. Anything can happen next year. It has nothing to do with this year. Next year, anything can happen. But we have Zadarius Smith under contract for next year. We have DJ Reader under contract for next year. We have Aleem McNeil under contract for next year. We have Aiden Hutchinson under contract for next year. Sitting pretty good.
Yeah.
So, you could bring in another guy in free agency for depth, but they're not going to bring in another guy, to replace Zadarius Smith when he's on the cheap. Right? His contract is extremely affordable.
Yeah.
And he's playing pretty well. You put him, alongside of Aiden Hutchinson, that's a totally different dynamic, of course. And now you have Aleem McNeil and DJ Reader, and we've seen what they've been able to do. And you've got Alex Anzalone and Jack Campbell in his third year. Man, watch out. Again, we're going to be one of the better defenses in the league next year, just starting the year healthy. So I think it's the draft is where we're going to find ourselves another defensive end. And according to Rockdon's roster roulette, this is the year that we do it. In 2025, we pick up another defensive end early in the draft. But we'll see.
Yeah. Just wait to see that front four of Aiden Hutchinson, Reader, Aleem McNeil, and Zadarius Smith. That is going to be a thing of beauty. I can't wait to see all four of them healthy playing together. I want to know what that looks like for a few games. And that would be something magical. We were spoiled. We did not know this. For the beginning of this season, we were spoiled. We had Aiden Hutchinson, Reader, Aleem McNeil, and Davenport. If all four of them could have stayed healthy for the entire season, do you think that we even, if they were all healthy, do we even lose a game this year?
Probably not. We wouldn't. We also wouldn't have had Zadarius Smith either.
Yeah, but I just don't know if if we would have even lost a game, that's how good we would have been had all four of them played healthy the entire season.
Now, I mean, you might have been surprised, but I mean, I wasn't. I think I'm one of the only guys that's talking about this team in a positive light in looking at what Brad Holmes is assembling. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm sure there's plenty of people out in the chat too that had this idea that, when Brad Holmes put this team together, and Dan Campbell obviously, put this team together in the offseason, I saw one of the best defenses we've ever had. And then I went to the first training camp, and immediately when we came back to the morning show, I said, best defense I've ever seen. Hands down. I knew it from day one that I was open to go to training camp. I wish that I had a press pass because I could have seen it earlier. But day one, I saw that defense jumping off that line, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, this, people are talking crap about Davenport. All I saw was a guy that got home. All I saw was a guy that was able to crush that corner and watch Aiden fly around the side. That's what you need. You need guys that work together. The only thing that I'm kind of mad at AG for is that he didn't use this defense against Minnesota in Week 18 pretty much the whole season.
Yeah.
But it is a defense that I called last week with Thor, and I said, this is the defense we need to run to beat Minnesota, and it's the same defense they ran. The more and more I watch tape, and we watched tape last week, the more and more we saw only two linebackers in the middle of the field running the 5-2 pretty much half the game. Incredible. Or sorry, 4-2-5. Sorry, incredible. Bringing down, Iffy, bringing down Branch as smaller linebackers, bringing them up into the box, having them rush off the ends. In the big ends, Zadarius, Pascal, Levi, they contained. They weren't really rushing the quarterback. They were containing, and then they collapsed the pocket from the outside in. It was just a thing of beauty. So I saw good things happening. I was never really concerned about this defense. I knew what Brad Holmes did in the offseason through free agency and the draft is exactly what we needed, And I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here, but you can't replace a great secondary. And at the beginning of the season when our linebackers were healthy with good linebacker play. Matter of fact, let me read you guys a quote. Last night I asked some guys what they think about pass rushers. Can you win in this league with only pass rushers? Like, is that the end all be all? Is sacks? And here's what I got for a response, and it's the short answer is no. Right? Sacks aren't everything. The long answer is having corners that you can trust to cover, which we had, make plays and aren't making business decisions with tackling, which we don't have. These guys don't give up on tackling. They go at it. They don't run away from it. That allows you to have safeties that trust their film work and stay put, along with the linebackers that are athletic and smart, is what makes a pass rush feel and look relentless. And that's what you saw in Week 18. You saw a defense that was relentless. Now, a team that has a good job of building a defense like that this season, outside of the Lions, when we were healthy, is the Broncos. So when you look at the Broncos, they might be leading in sacks or very close to the top. And I was going to do this segment tonight or, tomorrow, and I still will. But to quick it dirty on the Broncos is those are outside linebackers that have 10.5 and 13.5 sacks. They're not defensive ends. They're outside linebackers. So again, I will put it out there that you don't need big defensive ends like Myles Garrett or Max Crosby or anybody else to win football games. Sacks are not the end all be all. When does a sack help you? Well, it helps you on fourth down, right? If they're going for it on fourth down, it helps you there. You get a stop. It helps you on, first down, right? If you put them into a second and long situation, and then you're able to do whatever you want with the defense at that point. But interceptions, that's what gives your offense a better opportunity. So my question is this, and I'm going to do the research today. How many points did teams score off of getting a sack versus how many points did a team score off of getting an interception in 2024? What makes more sense? And here's the other thing that I'm going to say. Teams that don't have the most sacks in the league, there could be a reason for that. Were they playing from behind? Or did they need the defense to help them win because the offense struggled? Your Detroit Lions in 2024 didn't need a lot of sacks, and here's the reason why. They played from a lead, and big leads, in more than 75% of these games. And when you're playing from a lead, what are you not doing? You're not being as aggressive. So you're not sending everybody to go get sacks. You're trying to contain and keep everything underneath, which is what Eric hates, the bend but don't break defense, because you're just trying to keep everything in front of you. When you're up by 21 points, you're not like, all right, zero coverage, here we go, zero blitz. Doesn't happen. You're just trying to contain. So I think that when you understand football, and when you look at the totality of the situation, sacks are great, but Aaron Glenn even told you guys in the beginning of the season, sacks are great, pressure is better, right? As long as you can keep some pressure up, you can force guys to make bad decisions, which turns into interceptions. 33 pressures against the Minnesota Vikings without any different players that we've had on this team for several weeks. And it's because of the way that Aaron Glenn put these guys in a position to win and called a certain defense. It wasn't because we added a Myles Garrett on the right and a Max Crosby on the left. We still had the same players. So how do we get 33 pressures with a team that still needs pass rushers? Now, I'm not saying that we won't add one in 25. Of course you're going to add one in 25, whether it's for depth or a draft pick or whatever. Of course you're going to add some. But we're not going to add a $30 million guy. I guarantee it. And if we do, again, $100 donation to any charity that Eric picks. I'll tell you that right now. $100 donation to any charity if we sign a $30 million, $25 million or north guy next year that isn't on this team already.
So that goes to the Eric Needs a Super Bowl Ticket Fund.
No, it goes to a charity.
Yeah, that is the charity.
This is next year, so that won't help you this year.
Yeah. For next year. Yeah, I need it for next year too.
No. Not happening. All right, next up, we're way off topic here. Yep, I'm sick today. Like I don't feel good at all. I'm super nauseous, but I told Eric I was going to fight through it and try to get it done. So Eric, walk us through the wild card injury report, buddy.
Oh, let's get back to that. Where the heck is it here? Wild card injury report. Here we go. All right. So the injury report for the 2025 Super Wild Card Weekend. Yes, it is Wild Card Weekend already. So we get a game tomorrow at 4:30, and it is the Chargers versus the Texans. And right now, the Chargers wide receiver Josh Palmer is out for this game. He is not playing. And then doubtful, they have cornerback Jasir Taylor with a rib injury. And questionable are J.K. Dobbins, their wide receiver Simi Fehoko.
Okay. Yeah, Simi Fehoko, yep.
Yeah, and then their big wide receiver, Quentin Johnston, with a groin and an illness. And then offensive tackle Trey Pipkins and linebacker Denzel Perryman. They're all questionable, but should play. And then for the Texans, they have, let's see, Shaq Mason is out, their offensive lineman with a knee. That's not good. And then questionable are John Mechie, Tegan, I can't even think of saying that name.
Quitteriano.
Okay, there you go. And then Christian Harris and Danico Autry all have minor issues, but should play. They're all questionable.
So let's talk about each game for just a quick second.
Sure.
Chargers and Texans. And I know that we'll get into more of this when we do some picks and, some final strategy, I guess, at the end of the show. But Chargers and Texans, I don't really see a whole lot going on here as far as injuries. I mean, Josh Palmer being out as a wide receiver, I think that is a big one for the Chargers.
They still got that rookie.
Yeah. So, where I'm going with here, I mean, he's been a viable look at times, for the Chargers. He doesn't have a ton of stats this year, but I still think it's a big enough loss that to have a guy like that available. Now he's only had like 22 targets all season. It hasn't been much, but it's still a big enough loss where, who's going to step up? It could be anybody, but Is it big enough to where you have to worry? Probably not. But I think it's a big enough wide receiver target that it is going to hurt the Chargers from a depth perspective. Their cornerback, though, Jasir Taylor, that's a big one. He's doubtful with a rib injury. That's a big one. On the other side of the ball with the Texans, offensive lineman Shaq Mason being out. It's just one guy, you know. I don't think that's going to hurt him. But the Texans have had an issue with their offensive line kind of all season. So CJ Stroud's going to have one of his best games. My early favorite in this game is the Texans defense. But we'll see what happens. So up next, Steelers and Ravens. Out is Roman Wilson, wide receiver, linebacker Cole Holcomb, and defensive tackle Logan Nee. So that's not good. Questionable. Guard Mason McCormick, one of my favorite prospects out of the draft this season, and offensive lineman Kelvin Anderson. So they're not looking good. Having three guys questionable or out on the offensive side of the football, not good. But this is the biggest one of the weekend, in my from my perspective. Zay Flowers. He is out for the Ravens. This is a guy that is like, he's like a JMO to a degree, where he's like one touch away from a touchdown with his speed. The fact that they're not going to have him in this game is huge. He's given them over 1,000 yards of production this season, 74 receptions, only 4 TDs, but he's a guy that moves the chains. That's what he does. He moves the chains. So that is a big loss. But the fact that the Steelers, both, and the Ravens are both missing a pretty good receiver, Roman Wilson and Zay Flowers, that kind of evens out, evens it out for these guys as far as, injuries are considered. Kind of evens the score, I guess, is what I'm saying. Roman Wilson hasn't done a lot this year. Matter of fact, I don't even know if he's played a whole lot, but Zay Flowers is a much bigger loss than Roman Wilson. So next up, Eric, we've got the Denver game and the Packers game. Who do we got missed? Or I'm sorry, the Denver game and the Bills game.
Oh, let's see. It is not showing me any of the injuries now.
For Denver and Buffalo?
Yeah. Yeah, they disappeared.
Hold on.
Might have to.
All right, here we go. Broncos injury report. You've got Nate Atkins, abdomen. He's a full participant on Thursday. Tyler Body, full participant. Ben Powers, full participant. Frank Crum, tackle, did not practice. He's got an illness. And then Damari Mathis, cornerback, has a back injury, was limited, did not practice on Thursday. The Bills, on the other hand, man, do they have a boatload of injuries? But I'm going to sum it up and just say this. Out of the 15 players that are on this report, all of them are healthy, except for Brandon Codrington, kick returner, has got a hamstring. He was limited. And Jamarcus Ingram, cornerback, did not practice. But everybody else is good. Amari Cooper's healthy. Dalton Kincaid is healthy. Curtis Samuel's healthy. Again, to credit the Talkin' Football podcast, the Buffalo Bills are getting very healthy, very quickly, at the right time. And that's going to be scary. It's going to be real scary for any team that has to face the Bills this season, which is going to be the Broncos on Sunday. Sunday. This will be at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on CBS or Paramount or NFL Plus. Do you need the next one too? The Packers and
Nope,
Eagles?
I got the next one. So the next one, Green Bay Packers at the Philadelphia Eagles, Lincoln Financial Field, 4:30 on Sunday. This is the game that my eyes are going to be glued to the TV. This is the one I want to watch. And there's two guys that everybody wants to know about. The first, Jalen Hurts. He was a full participant all week in practice. And the other one is Jordan Love, who was also a full participant in practice. But there's a caveat to this. When they did their practices this week, the Green Bay Packers let the media in for stretches and warm-ups. As soon as a ball was put in Jordan Love's hand, they all had to leave.
Really?
And after the practice, they asked Matt LaFleur if Jordan Love had any problems throwing the ball. And all he would say was, Jordan's fine. And he wouldn't answer any questions about if he was still having any lingering issues from his elbow being hit. So they don't even know if he can grip a football. The media in Green Bay has no clue, and they're kind of upset that Matt LaFleur is not letting them see him actually throw a football. So on the other hand, you also have Malik Willis, who has a right thumb issue. He was also hurt in that game last week. So what are you going to do if Jordan Love and Malik Willis both have injuries that impede them in this game? This could be a long night for the Packers. But for the Packers, they had two people that did not participate in practice, and that was Christian Watson, who is out for the season now with an ACL, and safety Zane Anderson with a concussion. Limited this week were Javon Bullard with an ankle, Edgerrin Cooper with an injury in a knee, Brenton Cox with a foot, Andre Dillard with a concussion, TJ Slayton with an ankle, Quay Walker with an ankle, and Evan Williams with a quadricep. So that is a lot of people limited in practice for the Packers this week. For the Eagles, did not practice was A.J. Brown with a knee and for rest. So that was on purpose. And then guard Trevor Keegan with an illness. Limited this week were Jack Driscoll. He's an offensive lineman. Tackle Lane Johnson for rest. QB Kenny Pickett with ribs. And running back Will Shipley with an ankle. And then full participant were Grant Calcaterra, N'Kobe Dean, Dallas Goedert, Bryce Huff, Jalen Hurts, and Byron Young. All were full participants in practice this week. So the ones to watch are going to be Jalen Hurts and Jordan Love. Those are the two big ones for that game.
Well, the Bucs and the Commanders have a laundry list of players. But in this game, at least for the Bucs, tight end Cade Otton is back and healthy. And we'll review here what's going on for this game. This game will be on, Raymond James Stadium, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I believe that's Sunday night. So it'll be the last weekend game before the Monday game. But here you go. This is your Bucs injury report. And it's a laundry list. I'm only going to go through the guys that are limited or out. Cornerback Jamel Dean, limited. He's got a knee injury. Safety Mike Edwards, quad, limited. Wide receiver Mike Evans, he's on rest, but he did not participate because he's on rest. He's not injured. Defensive lineman William Golston, he was limited with a knee. Defensive lineman Logan Hall, limited with a groin. Everybody else was a full participant except for wide receiver Sterling Shepard was limited with a foot and a knee. And tackle Tristan Wirfs, quadricep, limited participant, but he is expected to play. On the Commander side of the football, tight end Zach Ertz, he is on rest. He did not participate. But everybody else that I'm going to talk about here, defensive end Cleveland Farrell, he is also on rest. I mean, a lot of guys are on rest here. So Terry McLaurin, Dante Fowler, they're all on rest. To get into the crux of their injury report, it is their center, Tyler Biadasz. He's a limited participant with an ankle. Jamison Crowder with a groin. Cornelius Lucas, tackle with a groin. John Bates, tight end with a shoulder. Frankie Louvu, linebacker, limited with a shoulder. And everybody else is a full participant. So Jaden Daniels, of course, good to go. Safety Jeremy Chin, good to go. That's a big one for them. And like I said, Zach Ertz, Cleveland Farrell, Dante Fowler, Terry McLaurin, all on rest this weekend. So shaping up to be a really good game. I mean, I think both those teams are going to be fairly healthy. It's definitely going to be a great game to watch, in my opinion. I think this could be a shootout. The Bucs do have a pretty good defense, but I think it could be a shootout. I think the Bucs are going to have to pace the Commanders in this game. From my opinion, I think the only way that Washington has a chance in this game is if they make it a shootout. I think the Bucs defense is pretty good, but again, I'm expecting to see Jaden Daniels continue what he's been doing all year. All right, final game of the week. We've kind of spoken about it already. Eric, Monday night.
They are super healthy. So this is Vikings versus Rams Monday night at 8:00. I can't believe how healthy these two teams are. So the Vikings had two people. So Patrick Jones with a knee, outside linebacker, did not practice. He's been out. And then Aaron Jones was a limited participant in practice. That's it. Everybody else with full practice. Now for the Rams, Rob Havenstein with a shoulder was a limited practice. Everyone else was full practice. That's it. A whopping 3 players between two teams in the playoffs. That's the healthiest I've ever seen two teams going into a playoff game in my life.
Like I said earlier, I think that the momentum is now shifted to the Vikings in this game, with this game not being a home game now for the Rams. I think it's shifted. You know, Dan Campbell told KOC at the end of the game, after kicking his ass, that we'll see you in 2 weeks. So maybe Dan Campbell knows something that we don't, but
yep.
You know, we might see the Vikings here in a couple weeks. Honestly, I'd rather see the Vikings than anybody else, just because. But then again, that third game in the same season, you lose typically. So I just don't want to see it.
Says that it's a myth. 68%. Lions would have a 68% chance to win that game.
We'll see.
And that's historical.
We'll see. Richard Blakely says, have a great day. Great weekend, everyone. And he must be logging off for the day. Appreciate you, Richard.
Yeah. He's from my hometown of Newberry, so we went to high school together.
Awesome.
Yep.
All right, Lions news is the second hour of the day. We're going to get into Aaron Glenn. What happened? Who did he snub? Who got rejected? And why? Yeah. I've got an interesting thought here on what's going on with Aaron Glenn. We're going to do that when we get back here. Quick word from Talkin' Football Podcast. If you guys haven't subscribed, it's Talkin_Football. There's no G on Talkin'. It's literally Talkin_Football on YouTube. Subscribe today. You can also find him on various podcast platforms like Apple, Spotify, and others. Here's our promo. We'll be right back.
In the huddle, man, talking football. NFL, college, man, they cover it all. Feel the tension, prediction, and the call. Fantasy life and rise or fall. Talking football night and day. NFL and college, hey. Bets and stats, they don't play. Fantasy champs on our way. Guitars, roaring hearts, beating fast. Catch a pass, score, man, have a blast. 3 voices, keeping it clear. Listen up, the season's here. Guitars, roaring hearts, beating fast. Catch a pass, score, man, have a blast. 3 voices, keeping it clear. Listen up, the season's here. Talking football night and day. NFL and college, hey. Bets and stats, they don't play.
All right, and we're back. So now we're going to get into Lions news here in the second half. Like I said, this show is going to be changing just a little bit. We're working on, putting together more of a show sheet that is going to give us some segments and things that we can kind of cut up into more videos. Been kind of slacking this year, as you guys know, because I just haven't been very healthy this year. But we're going to try to make sure that for 2025, at least beginning in the new season at the new league year, that we're going to have some things fixed and bring in a different level of energy. So let's start up. First, we'll continue on with injury reports, injury updates, health of the roster for the Detroit Lions as they're, taking on what is their bye week. And this comes by way of Tim Twentyman. It came out on January 7th. There's been some updates to this. But Dan Campbell did say that, he was going to give the coaches and everybody 3 days off, right? A 3-day weekend. And I didn't realize this. The coaches already get the weekend off if they're not playing in a game. So really, they only got 1 day off, 1 day additional. But that is going to give them plenty of rest, plenty of opportunity to get through all the interviews that some of these guys have to get through. The Lions did suit up for practice yesterday, which was good news, keeping the engine idling, as Dan Campbell said. So after listening to what some of these injuries were that went down in the last game, it does sound like Terrion Arnold is going to be fine. It does sound like, he is got this contusion of his foot. He was stepped on by El Kudin, but it does sound like he is going to be able to suit up. Now, we really won't know until this upcoming week when they actually suit up again for practice. As of right now, that is the story, that the Lions, got better news that it was just a foot contusion and nothing more sinister, like ligamental or, bone damage or anything like that. Not much has been updated for a couple of days on Terrion Arnold. So that is really the update, is that it is a bone contusion. There's nothing else really going on here. Next up is David Montgomery. Eric, what's the update on David Montgomery right now?
So David Montgomery, it has been said by Dan Campbell and many other people that David Montgomery did practice last week and this week with no setbacks. So he is good to go for the playoffs. At least that's the way it's trending. I watched a video yesterday, and it was the extended locker room and mic'd up of Jared Goff from the Vikings game last Sunday. And Jared Goff, immediately after the game, goes into the locker room and says, "Where's my hat? Where's my t-shirt?" And he puts on his new hat and he walks right up to David Montgomery and he says, "You're back next game, right?" He's like, "Yep, let's go." So he knows, even Jared Goff knows, that he was really close to coming back and playing against the Vikings. So I know for a fact that he wants to be out there, and he is going. I'm 100% confident that David Montgomery will be back for the first playoff game.
I'm not as confident, right? I'm just not. Not that he won't be back, because he's not off the roster. He's not on IR. He's part of the team, right? But is he going to suit up? Yes. I guarantee he's probably going to suit up. I'm a little bit less confident that he's going to get David Montgomery snaps.
Yeah,
I think that David's probably going to be held to a little bit more of a pitch count.
Yeah.
I say that throughout the season on players that have come back from injuries that we don't expect them to get a ton of action. Anzalone was the first one this season that kind of trumped that statement. I mean, he played all but one snaps in his return, which was crazy, but not unexpected for a guy like Thor there. But David Montgomery, according to Dan Campbell last week or was it this week? It was this week in a post game or the next day's press conference, did say that I do quote, expect David Montgomery to be back and playing in the next game. He was asked if he'll be back next week, and he flashed a big smile and said, "I'm excited. I'll just say that." So we're expecting David to be back, of course. But my question really is, do we need him? Does he have to be back in the next game? Would the Lions be remiss if they put Montgomery in and he gets injured, maybe waiting just one more week? Or do you put him in if you need him, meaning you need a spark? Something's happening. Maybe something's not working. Maybe Jahmyr Gibbs gets banged up. Maybe Craig Reynolds gets banged up, and you need a spark from David. And maybe that's when you put him in. So I think that he's going to be held out a little bit, but we'll see. This is the week where we're going to find out what exactly is going on with David Montgomery once practice resumes this week and we get more information from the injury reports. But it's not. Listen, I'm not poo-pooing it. I'm just saying I think the Lions are going to be smart with this, because if they can limit him as much as they can, that just gets him healthier. The longer they can wait, it'll get him healthier for the next week and making the longer run into the Super Bowl push. But go ahead, Eric.
I truly believe that it's not going to be a 50-50 anymore. There's absolutely no way. And I don't think even when Montgomery gets back to 100% health, can it be a 50-50 split anymore. Jahmyr Gibbs is just too good.
Yeah.
And he's proven it. We've seen it. If you can just get him a few more carries, man, electric things can happen. 4 touchdowns, 139 yards on the ground. another 50, 60 through the air. Come on. You can't deny this kid. And I think the Lions finally see it. They see what could be. And I think they're going to be smart about it, but it might be more of a 25-75 split from here on out going forward. And that doesn't matter whether Montgomery is healthy or not. You're going to see more snaps out of Gibbs.
So when you look at the Lions rushing stats for the season, if you just total up what David and Jameer did, it's 435 carries.
Yep.
Okay. It's right around 2,190 yards ish, rounding up. Do they really need to give David Montgomery 50-50? No. It was damn near spot on 50-50 until David went out. Here's where I'm going here. 435 divided by 17 games is 25.6 snaps per game, or 25.6 carries per game. If you give Jameer on average 19 carries a game, you'll probably get 100 yards out of the kid every single game. And you'll probably get a couple of rushing touchdowns every single game. All he needs is somewhere between 19 and 21 snaps a game. And if the Lions are able to pull that off, that means that they're winning, and they're winning on the ground, because, you know, you don't need to put up those kind of numbers if you have to pass a lot, right? So, look, if Jameer averages 20 snaps, 19 snaps for the rest of the postseason, I think that's a good number. And I don't think that's too much to put on Jameer Gibbs and worry about running him into the ground or him not staying healthy. The one thing that I've noticed about Jameer, and I think you said it the other day too, the guy does not suck wind. He'll a long run, he just casually jogs back to the bench, sits down. He is not sucking wind. He is not grabbing oxygen. The dude doesn't bat an eye. It's like it doesn't affect him. It's like it's not even work. It's like he hasn't even broken a sweat. I don't know if I've ever seen the guy sweat.
Yeah. You don't see him with his hands on his knees.
No. Well, it's kind of funny. Like I said the other day, when he sits back, he's just kind of like this behind Jared Goff. You know, he's just kind of chilling.
He's just chilling. Yeah.
Just chilling. Just chilling. Just looking for the hole.
Yeah. You know? I can't remember where he said he saw that at, because he used to be in a stance. And then in college, he saw somebody else just standing up straight. And he's like, oh, I'm going to try that too. And it worked for him. So,
yeah, I personally have never seen it. I've never seen somebody do that. All right. So we got some good news. Yeah. And that is Mr. Ennis, the Menace Rakestraw. So a couple weeks ago, I thought that this guy was done. I didn't think that he was going to have a chance to come back. But given now that the Lions are up against it with some injuries here, one with Terry and Arnold, we're expecting him to be back next week, but anything can happen between now and then. Yep. Ennis's practice window is open. So why don't you walk us through this article here by Jeremy Reisman?
Oh, let me see. Get back into it here. Oh, I'm hitting the wrong keyboard. Got to learn new stuff when you got new technology, apparently. Yeah. So the Detroit Lions may have one more player returning from injury before their playoff run begins. On Thursday, the Lions designated rookie cornerback Ennis Rakestraw to return from injury, opening up his 21-day evaluation clock. The Lions are currently on a bye week, but Coach Dan Campbell said on Tuesday that they planned on practicing Thursday, and it appears Rakestraw returned to action then.
Well, that's great news. The fact that they're getting him back. I mean, a second-round pick from this season. There's a lot of high expectations for the second-round pick, but he just wasn't needed. Between Amik Robertson and Terry and Arnold and Carlton Davis holding down the fort, he just wasn't needed. And, of course, we had Khalil Dorsey, who was playing really well, also in special teams. But, now that he's out, or he's been out, Carlton Davis is out, and I think that there's a little bit of teetering going on here with Carlton Davis. So Dan Campbell said it's done, right? Season-ending injury, he's out, not coming back. Derek Barnes out, not coming back. Aiden Hutchinson, season-ending injury, not coming back. But I think that there's a little bit of teetering. I just read something the other day that there still is talk that Carlton Davis could come back, but more so if it's the Super Bowl. And I hate getting, deep off into all of these, what if situations. For right now, we have who we have, and Ennis Rakestraw is the next healthiest guy that we have. And I have to say that when we've seen him in the lineup, when he's had to come in and cover even a few snaps, he plays pretty well.
Yep.
So I'm not worried about the fact that he doesn't have the skill. I'm just more worried about the fact that he's been out for quite a while.
Yeah.
Really hasn't played in a while. And that's what has me worried a little bit. So this is a big week for him, getting back to practice yesterday. And then also next week, seeing how well he is, in limited time here, because now they're focused on a playoff game. This is not practice, right? This is even regular season practices are very limited in scope. This is now a playoff game. So it is going to be drilled down. It is going to be, high level. There's no time to screw around, right? So Ennis is going to have to get installed one way or the other. Whether it happens next week or not, we'll find out. But that's good news that we're returning at least another guy that has kind of gone through the injury bug all season.
Yeah, that was kind of his not coming out of college, is that he was often injured, even in college. So a couple of hamstrings and an illness. I think this last one, they put him on IR due to illness, didn't they?
I believe so.
Yeah, so I wonder if maybe
I don't remember now.
Yeah, so I have to wonder if it was something like a bad flu or, the C word.
Well, it's been going through a lot of teams. A lot of players have been getting sick, and it's just not. It's not cool. It's hard to keep 100 guys in the locker room healthy.
Yeah.
There's just bugs everywhere. So, all right, next up, we're going to be talking about the coach poaching going on. The Detroit Lions, man, they're hot commodity. I can't say that I'm surprised. Last season, to start the season in 2023, I remember coming to a mic similar like this, very terrible audio, and I said that the Detroit Lions are great for football business. And what I meant by that is we just witnessed, what was happening at the end of the 22 season with the Lions winning in week 18 to take down Aaron Rodgers and send him packing from the NFC North. And we could feel it. At least I could. I could feel it. It was happening. I expected the Lions to go 12-5 in 2023. I expected them to win the North in 2023, and they did. I expected that when that happened, things were going to start to happen with our coordinators, and it did. Aaron Glenn, Ben Johnson, they started to get looked at. Ben Johnson came back, and according to, Monroe St. Brown, he got a phone call from Ben last year. It was late. Monroe was sleeping. He answers the phone, like, what's up? Ben's talking to him, so, Monroe asks him, so what are you going to do? And he said, I'm coming back. There's unfinished business. Great move, because now the Lions finished 15-2, thanks in part to Eric's crystal rubbing or whatever he's doing up there. And here we are in another postseason. NFC North winners back-to-back, and our first one seed in the history of the franchise. And now we have not one, not two, not three, not four, but five pieces of the Lions personnel that are getting poached. And this is just the beginning. Like, we haven't even started in on the scouts, and the rest of the personnel that do all of the work behind the scenes. And when some of these when some of these coaches leave, well, they're attached at the hip to somebody. So for every one coach that leaves, or one positional coach that leaves, or, an assistant GM or whomever, right? There's probably going to be one or two more going with them. We could see a mass exodus of probably 15 pieces of this personnel grouping in Detroit vanish overnight. And where I started this morning, my question was, who do you see replacing these people? I don't know if there's really a definitive line of who fits and who doesn't. And my question is this: why are the Lions not interviewing? Why are we not hearing about the Lions interview? Are they just going to accept scraps? I can't imagine that they will. I expect that Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes both have a list. But does that list not include anybody that's interviewing right now? That's my biggest question. So, I mean, I don't know how it would make Ben Johnson or Aaron Glenn or Hank Fraley or Chris Spielman or any of these people feel that they're out interviewing and they don't know if they're going to get a job. Does it make sense for an employer to interview if you don't know that the job is really open? For me, I'm just going to tell you something that I did, and you may agree or disagree, but being in sales or in executive positions, most of my career, I was in sales for a while, right? And in sales, typically like every 3 to 5 years, you're going to move on. Sometimes every 2 to 3 years, depending on the sales job, right? You might move on. And the reason why is because if you're good at what you do, you might reach the top, you might make the most money that you can make in that situation, and then you want to do something bigger and better. Well, for me personally, I interviewed every year. Every year. I didn't tell anybody. I interviewed with at least 1 or 2 companies every year. One, just to keep my interviewing, qualities up, right? Kind of keep myself fresh on the market, see what's out there, make some more contacts, right? I'm kind of doing some, low level, I guess, networking, if you will, just trying to make more, contacts with people. So my question is, do you do that in the NFL? Do you interview just to interview? Are you just trying to see what's out there? Are you just trying to kind of keep yourself fresh? And what do the Lions do? Why are they not interviewing anybody to replace these people if they're going to leave? Or the possibility is that they could leave. I just find it interesting. I've never seen a team interview because their people are interviewing. So let's kick it off first with the guy that popped up in the news yesterday, and that is Mr. Deshea Townsend. Brought in last season by the Detroit Lions as the defensive back coach. Has done a hell of a job with the DBs. And I find it interesting for all the people that think, all the Lions fans that may think, or even non-Lions fans that may think that the Detroit Lions defensive backs didn't play well this year because of all the yards that they were giving up. I think that they failed to see the position that we were in, right? When you're working from a lead, well, again, you're not going to be as aggressive. When you have as many injuries as you have to figure out a way to win. And sometimes you're going to give up yards, but when you get into the red zone, they don't score, right? We shut teams down. Deshea Townsend doesn't get interviewed if the rest of the league doesn't believe what he's done with this group is not great. And it's been phenomenal what Deshea Townsend has done with this group this season. So he interviewed yesterday with the San Francisco 49ers. Now, that interview was completed yesterday. There's been no news. Obviously, there won't be any news for a little while, as if, he's going to get called back for a second interview. All of the interviews going on this week are all virtual. Nobody's traveling. They're all virtual. Now, he played in the NFL, and that ended in 2010, and then he transitioned almost immediately into coaching, where he began as an assistant defensive backs coach for the Arizona Cardinals. And since then, he has quite the extensive experience serving as an assistant or a lead defensive backs coach with the Tennessee Titans, the New York Giants, the Chicago Bears, and the Jacksonville Jaguars. And he did all that before joining the Detroit Lions this last season. Now, under the guidance of Townsend, this season, the Detroit Lions pass defense ranked 30th. But I will tell you, that is a number that doesn't make sense because it's just based on the stat lines. And the stat lines don't make sense to people that don't understand it. Again, when you're giving up a bunch of yards in the pass game because of the style of defense that you're running, it's expected to give up yards. You don't have to shut everybody down from every position on the defense to have success. We wouldn't be like the 6th or the 7th ranked defense in the NFL right now, without the defensive backs doing well in the red zone. And they do. They don't give up touchdowns. Matter of fact, they're one of the best teams in the NFL in the red zone, in the defensive back room. So obviously pulling down 16 interceptions this season, tied for 5th in the league. It's been huge with what this team has done this year. But Deshea Townsend was a great pickup by Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes. And now he could be gone to the San Francisco 49ers as a defensive coordinator. Eric, I haven't heard of anybody else looking at Townsend. Have you heard of any other teams looking at him?
No. And I know that Robert Saleh also interviewed for that job yesterday. So it would be very interesting to see if he gets picked over Robert Saleh, who used to be their defensive coordinator anyway. Would they give him another shot since he went on to be a head coach? That's very interesting which one they would go with. Deshae Townsend, who's been around the league, been around, and the guy who's never gotten a chance to be a defensive coordinator, or your former defensive coordinator who went on to be a head coach and failed. Very interesting to me. Yeah, it's going to be kind of neat to see who gets that position.
So I'm glad that Gary Thompson in the chat understands, a little bit about what's going on with this Lions defense, because he says teams were playing from behind. So they, being our opponents, were throwing the ball more often.
Oh, yes.
It's exactly why, number one, you're not going to see a ton of sacks. And number two, you're going to give up a lot of yards. And number three, why getting interceptions were so critical and more important to this Detroit Lions defense this season, to be able to turn that ball over to Jared Goff and go get more points. You're not going to get points off of sacks, but you will get points off of interceptions. Don't want to see him leave. Obviously, only having Deshae Townsend for one season, what could be in store for the Lions defense next year? I don't think that teams are going to be looking at him if they felt like what he did this season was a failure, because it was not. I think that these teams, they understand way more than we do what those stats mean when you watch the tape and you see what we had to do defensively and where we were playing from a lead, to credit Mr. Thompson in the chat. Makes sense. It all makes sense. And then we spoke about this gentleman earlier this morning, Mr. Hank Fraley. This guy I've been talking about for a couple of seasons now, but I began very early in this season saying how incredible of a job that he has done. Last year I was doing like a review of the coaches and reviewing, kind of how they performed. Be interested to go back and watch that and to see what I said about Hank Fraley back then. But I said the same thing just yesterday morning, that I expected Hank Fraley to start getting looked at. I see Hank Fraley almost as the next Andy Reid. And I'm not just saying that because they have a similar body style, which someone told me in a message yesterday. They said, why do you think that? Because of similar body? No. Intelligence. Hank Fraley is like a super intelligent dude that nobody gets. Like they didn't know that about Hank. Super intelligent dude. The guys love him, right? I mean, he's super important to this team. But the offensive line, I mean, they're all like brothers, including Hank Fraley. I mean, these guys love what he does. An extremely good coach, very smart, very savvy. And this is a guy that can do things at a high level. And I think that he could be a great offensive coordinator at some point in this league. He's got to start somewhere. And the Seattle Seahawks will be interviewing him today. So he will be going through an interview for the Seahawks offensive coordinator position. Fraley, get this. He was originally hired by Matt Patricia. That might have been the only good thing that Matt Patricia did. And he was retained by Dan Campbell. So that tells you how much respect he has for Hank Fraley. Now, Hank brings a different dynamic to this team. And this is where I think that the replacements that are going to be coming in, if and when some of these guys leave, are going to fit this mold that the Lions have had. Hank is a former NFL veteran center for 10 seasons. Former player, right? He understands the offensive line, played at a high level in the NFL. And look, the Lions led the NFL in points per game, and they were rated the number 3 offensive line in PFF for run blocking this season. Those are not easy things to do. So I'm expecting him to get hard looks, if not just by the Seattle Seahawks. There could be more teams coming, calling for Hank Fraley to interview. Man, don't want to lose him. Absolutely do not. I'm actually kind of pissed at myself that I even opened up my mouth yesterday because I put it out in the universe.
Yeah.
But at least it shows that, we have a good pulse on the team and we understand who these guys are and how important they are to this team and its success. We get it. Chris Spielman. Do you want to highlight Chris Spielman?
Sure. Do you know what's really crazy? Is that us as fans, that we know who all the position coaches are.
Yeah.
So like before the game, when I'm watching pregame warmups, when I sit in 136 down towards the corner of the end zone there, that's where Gio and all the big linemen, and they all come out and do their pregame warmups right in the corner there. And it's always Hank Fraley out there with them, doing a few drills with them. And, always screaming out, "Hey, Hank, Hank the Tank and Frank the Tank." And, it's just crazy that us as fans know who the coordinator, all these position coaches and coordinators are, because I couldn't tell you who the offensive line coach for the Kansas City Chiefs or the Packers or the Vikings or the Bears is. I couldn't tell you one.
Maybe if you were a fan of the team, you would probably know, though.
But I mean, not another team do I know all their coordinators. I don't even know who the offensive or defensive coordinator for most of the teams in the league are. Maybe
the more you do this, the more you'll learn.
Yeah, maybe a
you
couple.
Have to.
But as a fan, most fans aren't going to know who all the coordinators and all the position coaches are. So it's kind of neat that, in Detroit here, basically everybody knows. And something that happens in Detroit also is that the fans buy jerseys of all of the linemen here. Mm-hmm. You can go to any home game and you're going to see a Penei Sewell jersey. You're going to see a Taylor Decker jersey. You're going to see a Frank Ragnow jersey up in the stands. You don't see that at any other stadium. So that's pretty awesome. So to get to Chris Spielman, he's looking at doing an interview for the Jets for their vacant GM job. His brother.
I got a timeout, Eric. Quick timeout,
Sure.
Because we've only got about a half hour or so left.
Yep.
We've got about 300 plus people watching right now.
Yep.
If you haven't subscribed, we are only 21 subscribers away from 8,000.
Yeah.
If you hit that mark right now, I'm going to give a mini helmet away in this stream, and you'll have an opportunity to win. So let's get it done. Let's get those subscriptions up. We'll give away the mini helmet. Eric, while you're talking about Chris Spielman, I'm going to go pull a mini helmet because I think these people will get it done.
All right, let's do it. He'll even show you what it looks like. So Chris Spielman, he's going to do an interview with the Jets. Well, that's partially because his brother, Rick Spielman, works for the 33rd team, and they are helping with the search for candidates for the GM position. Chris Spielman has been a major factor in the Detroit Lions' resurrection over the last couple of years. I truly believe that it was Chris Spielman that brought in Brad Holmes, that brought in Dan Campbell, and gave them the stamp of approval from Sheila Hamp, because Chris Spielman was the first one hired. He was the first one to take the reins and say, this is what you need to do to build a winning culture here in Detroit. You need to get the right people first, and that's what he did. The legendary former linebacker, he was a great linebacker for Ohio State and a fantastic linebacker for our Lions. Anyone that's been a Lions fan for a long time knows Chris Spielman from his play on the field. And Spielman does a little bit of everything, from helping with the front office and business operations to acting as a sounding board to the coaching staff. Heck, every once in a while you can see him fixing divots in the practice field at Allen Park while wearing a weighted vest to boot. And he really does. He goes around and looks at the field and makes sure everything's good. And you see him at practice doing it at training camp. It was absolutely awesome to see, that he cares that much about a grass field for the practice, And Chris Spielman also played a key role in hiring process of Dan Campbell and general manager Brad Holmes in Detroit. Based on what the duo was done for Detroit with back-to-back division titles and the franchise's first number one seed, that's a juicy addition to the resume. Now he's getting an interesting opportunity for his efforts. Spielman will interview with the New York Jets for their vacant general manager role, per multiple reports. So,
quick update. Big shout out to John Weldon. Just joined the Lions Faithful membership.
Hey, right on.
Appreciate you, buddy. Thank you for joining. And another update. We just had 6 new subscribers, so we're inching our way. Let's keep it rolling.
Heck yeah.
And here you go. So I pulled 2. We've got a Panay Sewell camo. So this is your military edition. These things are awesome. And I pulled the same one for Chris Spielman, since we were just talking about Chris Spielman. So same exact one. As you can see, they're signed. They got certificate of authenticity. I bought all these, and some things were donated this summer at Pro Sports Zone. So if you're looking for really good equipment, if you're looking for memorabilia, jerseys, shirts like this, you guys got to hit up Pro Sports Zone in Livonia. John Yu is an excellent individual. Does a lot with donating and just being a big supporter, big sponsor of things that we do, and for a lot of people. So just a really good dude. Visit Pro Sports Zone in Livonia. Support your local company, right? Don't give all the money away to the internet just because it's easy. Take a trip, go visit the dude, shake his hand, and he'll show you around and find what you need. He's got a beautiful selection. The most stuff I've seen for Detroit Lions stuff is in that store, and then across the hall he has his own. He has a college store, so it's U of M, Michigan State. I mean, all the Michigan colleges. He has it all right across the hall. So whatever you're looking for.
Yeah, that's the best sports store you're going to find. I'm telling you right now, he's got everything Lions.
All right, so Chris, look, this guy, can't say enough about him. I talked about him the other day. I don't want to repeat. I don't want to beat a drum too much, but I'm not surprised here. I'm really not surprised. New York is a big market. I think that if anybody can help turn around the Jets, it's going to be Chris, but my only worry is Chris going to have the same style of working relationship that he does with Sheila? I don't think so. I think that Woody's a mess over there. I think that whole situation going on in New York is just a mess. And I don't know that Chris really wants to be a part of that. I mean, does he really want that much of a headache? I don't know. And it's not because I want him to stay in Detroit, but I do.
Mm-hmm.
I could just see... Honestly, I think the Raiders would be an excellent opportunity for him. Again, I don't have a ton of trust in that owner either. But the more that teams are getting rid of their GMs this week, I think that there's going to be more opportunities for Chris Spielman. So we'll see.
And I think the one that would worry me with Chris Spielman is if the Raiders come a-calling.
Hopefully, right?
If they did a double dip and do Chris Spielman and Ben Johnson.
I mean, again, I think that it makes sense that if you're trying to pull Ben Johnson or Aaron Glenn, you're probably trying to pull, Chris Spielman and Ray Agnew with them. They've got that working relationship. And look, I don't think that there's anybody in the NFL, any team in the NFL that looks at what the Detroit Lions have done this season and say, we don't want to do that. I think they're all saying, we want to know how you did that. And we want to know everything that you did. And that's exactly why these guys are getting called upon. Because what's going on in Detroit is unique, right? It doesn't happen for most teams. I mean, just look at the Jets. They've been a dumpster fire for years. And I should be careful with what I say because the Lions were dumpster fires for decades.
Oh, God.
We had a few great teams here or there. We had a great decade with Barry Sanders. We had a great decade with Calvin Johnson. But even in those decades, we had 0-16 seasons. We've had missed opportunities in NFC championship games and few and far between a couple of playoff games in 32 years until last year. So I'm going to be careful with what I say, but now we're starting to get on the other side of it, and it's because of what the Lions have built, and now we're starting to potentially lose some of the first pillars that were erected in Detroit for this team: Aaron Glenn, Ben Johnson, Chris Spielman. I mean, one of the very first pillars that Sheila dug into the ground was him. So it's tough, right? I mean, it's a little heart-wrenching, to be honest with you.
I honestly thought that Spielman was never going to leave. I thought he was happy in the role he had, and we were going to erect a statue of Chris Spielman at Ford Field someday.
You never know. They still might, but I guess you don't know these people personally, but at the same time, you feel like you know them a little bit because of how much they've done and how much you read and how much time you spend. I'm not a regular fan of the team because I spend so much time doing this. You'll learn so much, about everybody and everything that's involved. All right, so next up, the main topic of today's headline is Aaron Glenn rejected. What does it mean? what happened. I'm sure you guys already know, but Aaron Glenn has been set up now with multiple interviews that are starting. They are starting, and I think that they start today. So Aaron Glenn will be part of a group as he is set out for 5 head coaching opportunities this weekend. Let me recap here. Thursday, today, he'll be visiting with the Jets. Friday, he'll be visiting with the Saints in the morning. This is virtual, of course. And Friday in the afternoon will be with the Raiders. Saturday morning will be with the Jags. And Saturday evening will be with the Bears. Now, that's 5. But there's one team that came calling for Aaron Glenn. And he said, hell to the no. I don't want to go there. And that is the New England Patriots. Now, the Patriots requested permission to interview Glenn 2 days after they requested permission to interview Ben Johnson. And a day after, many had criticized the Patriots for potentially circumventing the spirit of the Rooney Rule by quickly interviewing Byron Leftwich and Pep Hamilton, who currently are connected to no NFL team and thus could be interviewed in person right away. It's all part of what many see as an expedited effort to hire former Titans coach Mike Vrabel. To be clear, though, the Patriots absolutely complied with the Rooney Rule. Wednesday's request for Glenn created the impression that the Patriots made an effort to over-comply, either after hearing the external critiques or after hearing directly from the league office themselves that it looked like a non-genuine effort to comply. Now, the fact that Glenn said no thanks, or hell to the no, actually allows the Patriots to close a deal with Vrabel if they want to. If they do, however, it will give more ammunition to those who claim that the process wasn't about conducting an open and inclusive search, but checking boxes in order to make the hire that they possibly have already decided to make. Now, I get all this, right? I understand all of this and what's being said. But here's what I'm going to say. Do you honestly think that a former Jet wants to coach the Patriots? There is such a hatred, rivalry between the Patriots and the Jets. It has been a very long disdain between both teams. Aaron Glenn being a former player himself for the Jets, I just couldn't see him being a Patriot. I really couldn't. And with everything that happened with the former Patriots prior, to Glenn arriving in Detroit, I think that even furthered the issue. What Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn did and how they set up Detroit. I just don't think that there's a ton of respect for Robert Kraft. So I think that this is more about Aaron Glenn and his disdain for that team and the fact that he still has an internal fire burning for that rivalry, I think is why he said no. We'll never know the real answer. But anyway, Aaron Glenn rejected a team, and I just thought it was absolutely hilarious, to be honest with you. I'm glad that he did. But Aaron Glenn, I think, is all but gone. So for all of you people that hated Aaron Glenn's defense, hated the way that Aaron Glenn didn't do this or didn't do that, or you thought that he was doing everything wrong, I mean, I myself have said that he gets stubborn at times, but I always believed in the guy. I always believed in the defense. I could see the defense working once he got his pieces. If you remember, I said he was one half of a season away, just getting into that 4th NFL draft that Brad Holmes needed to get him his pieces through the draft and free agency, and he got them. And now we've got the best defense that we've had in not just 4 seasons, but like 10 seasons since 2014. And now he's going to be gone. And you know what? Sometimes the grass isn't always greener, guys, ladies, gentlemen, kids, whoever's listening. The grass isn't always greener on the other side. We have no idea who's going to replace him. And if he's going to work, is he going to be the leader of men that Aaron Glenn has been? Are the guys on this defense just going to snap to it and surround this new coordinator with the same love that they gave Aaron Glenn? You're talking 4 seasons of him being in Detroit. And all of these players that have come up through Detroit over the last 4 seasons, a lot of them through the draft, they're going to have to rekindle a relationship or kindle a relationship, if you will, with this new coordinator. And sometimes it doesn't work out. So things could get worse before they get better on the defense. It could totally fall apart in 25. I hope that Dan Campbell doesn't allow that to happen. But if you remember, Aaron Glenn has been the only guy that has stayed in his position since Dan Campbell got here. We've had some changes at OC. We've had some changes at other positional coaching positions. Aaron Glenn is the only guy that stayed.
Yep. Now, a lot of people are talking about the Patriots, how they had Gerard Mayo for one season and they booted him, and he's a minority coach, and how minority coaches are not getting a chance. They're getting one season, and if they don't turn it around, they're giving them the boot. Well, how about this? I have a suggestion for the NFL. You know how if you hire a minority coach, or if one of your minority coordinators goes on to be a head coach, there's third round picks involved. I say this: if you hire a minority coach and that coach you fire after their first season, your team has to give up some sort of draft compensation, maybe a third round pick, for not giving them at least one, more than one season, giving them multiple seasons.
Yeah, I hear you. Sorry, I just got to reply to
something. Okay. I just was thinking that might be a partial solution. So at least they're losing a draft pick if they don't give these guys a chance. Because you can't, literally, I don't care who it is, you can't give them only one season. You have to have some type of sustainability, and you have to give them a chance to turn things around. I don't know of any coach that can just come in and completely turn around a team like the Patriots. What did they have last year? Like 4 wins or something, to come in with a brand new quarterback that you just drafted this year and have them have this miraculous turnaround. I just don't see how you can do it in 1 year.
I think it's really irresponsible of these. Yeah. I mean, because look, these coaches, when they get these contracts, you're going to be paying that coach no matter what when he leaves. So you're spending your own money. Okay, it's your own money. Whatever. But yeah, I mean, you look what the Raiders did. You look what the Patriots did. You can't rebuild a team in a year. I'm sorry, unless your coach built you an amazing team, you just won a Super Bowl, or you went really deep in the playoffs, you got an amazing team, a lot of the players stick around for the next year, and you just decide to go coach college for whatever reason, or you decide to go to a different team for whatever reason in the NFL, and you've got all these great players assembled, and a coach walks into that, yeah, you could probably keep the motor going. But when you walk into a team that has been decimated, hasn't won a whole lot, maybe has been mismanaged before you got there, you're not going to do squat in the first year, because honestly, in the first year, if you don't lose a bunch of games, I'd be surprised, because you're going to want to get rid of just about anybody and everybody that can help you gain draft capital and cap space. And if you got a quarterback that you don't agree with, well, now you've got even bigger problems, because you might have a quarterback that's under contract for 3-4 seasons. Could be a big contract, or it could be a rookie contract. If it's a rookie contract, you're okay. Just get another rookie. Or you go out and find, an elder statesman, that maybe you don't have to pay a ton of money, that you can take a risk on, like a Sam Darnold. You only paid $10 million. Those kind of things can line up. It can help you. But more often than not, you have to exercise patience in the NFL. And honestly, I don't think the NFL is very patient. I think that they're starting to learn a little bit. But if you look at the Detroit Lions history, they are the best case study of what not to do. On average, we gave coaches 2.5 seasons. Dan Campbell, next to Jim Caldwell, and I think Jim Schwartz, are the longest tenured coaches since like 1950. So, other than Wayne Fonts, he was around for a minute.
But seriously, I don't think in my lifetime there's been a Lions coach that's coached for 10 seasons.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
I don't think there's been a Lions head coach that has been here for 10 or more years in my life, in one span in my lifetime. maybe Chuck back in the 80s or something, but
Well,
Wayne
if you're
Fontes,
talking about in your
7
lifetime, I think the Wayne Fonts was
7.
7 or 8 years.
Yeah, nobody's made
10.
10 years. Nobody. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and again, since then, so he left at 96. I was 16 years old in 96.
Yeah.
You know, since then we've had Swartz and Caldwell. And I think Swartz was 4, and I think Caldwell was 4, or vice versa. Swartz was 5, Caldwell was 5. I don't remember. But those are the longest tenured coaches that we had until now with Dan Campbell. And Dan Campbell is the first winningest coach that we've had, right? He's now plus 500, way above 500. Well, not way above, but a little bit above 500.
Yeah.
What's that?
He's better than Caldwell now, because Caldwell was our winningest percentage coach.
Absolutely. Okay. You know, earlier I was talking about the Raiders going hard for Ben Johnson, and there was an article that came out talking about Tom Brady. And, you know, Tom Brady's a minority owner of the Raiders. And from what we're understanding and hearing is he might be a minority owner, but he's definitely leading from the front of the pack.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Brady's pulling the strings right now, and that is, I don't know why I can't open this. It's not letting me open it. But Tom Brady apparently is pulling the strings, and that's why you could see Ben Johnson end up as a Raider. So, all right, let me give you guys a quick recap here. Look, we just need like 10 more subscribers, and we can give away these mini helmets. If you guys haven't subscribed yet, do it now. I'll stay on a little after 10 a.m. if I have to.
Yeah, we can keep going.
You got 4 minutes to 10 a.m. Let's get it on. We just had another subscriber here to the Lions Faithful membership. That is Cornelius Metzars. Congratulations. And thank you.
Yeah.
Mark Baylor says he don't talk about the Millen man no more. Actually, I talked about him for 1 minute this year. And that is when I said that I wanted an orange out. And it reminded me of the Millen Man March when we had the orange out at the game. Everybody wore Hunter's orange. And yeah, that was years ago. But I wanted an orange out at a game. And I can't remember which game it was now. It was an away game. I wanted the Lions to wear some orange to stand out in the crowd.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember which game it was now.
Colts game.
Was it the Colts game?
Yeah, that was the Colts game because they're blue and we're blue.
Okay.
And they're white and we're white, you know. So
yeah, it was the Colts game. Good memory there.
Yeah.
All right, just a few more. Hey, we're almost there. We just need a few more subscribers. Guys, hit it. We got Panay Sewell. We got Chris Spielman. And they're both signed Army Edition mini helmets from Pro Sports Zone. Certificate of authenticity is on the back with a sticker. I know Panay Sewell's usually goes for about $150. Chris Spielman, right around 100, 125. So all the work that I do, you know, through this channel, I get started as a Lions channel with the goal of doing the Rockdown Cancer Foundation to help others. Does not help me, does not go into my pocket. It's to help others. Giving away 20 mini helmets like this season or more. I know that I had a box of close to 50. Everything that comes into this channel goes into stuff like this to go back to you, or the raffles that are on buymeacoffee.com/rocked-on. Again, that's buymeacoffee.com/rocked-on, ROCKED, rock, my last name. All of that stuff goes to the Cancer Foundation. So we have a fund that we're trying to build up to get to 50,000 by June 1st. And if I do that, a company is going to support us for 10 years with a $500,000 endowment. 50 grand for 10 years, which is huge. And where all this started, obviously the Cancer Foundation, because I'm a cancer survivor. My Megan's a cancer survivor. We were both diagnosed within 9 months of each other, and went through really rough time, still going through really rough time because I'm still battling each and every day. This last year has been really tough. And I could only imagine, all the other people in our situation. I mean, it's bad enough having one person in your home go through cancer, but 2 in less than a year. The financial impact many people can't come back from. They lose their home, they lose their cars, they lose their jobs, and there's just not enough resources. So my goal is to help with thyroid cancer as an early detection. Want to put a bus together that does ultrasounds and blood work to get you a baseline. If you haven't been tested, I would suggest you go get tested now. Talk to your doctors, because early detection is everything. I had a doctor straight up tell me that the little thyroid nodules were never going to be cancer. And if I didn't follow up, I probably wouldn't be here today. I followed up, I got it done, and I found out that there was cancer before my doctor ever did anything. That is why I'm doing this, because of the situation that I was put in. I now want to give back to the community and raise the awareness, raise the alarm that those little nodules aren't innocent. Don't let a doctor ever tell you that they're innocent and everybody has them. It's your body. You get one, right? Or whatever you believe in. You get one or more, I guess. Anyway, we hit 8,000 subscribers. Congratulations.
Hey, right on.
So that's what I'm doing. That's the goal here. It's all legit. It's all above board. After a few years, we'll be able to file for a 501c3. I've got to have a board. I've got to have all these things. It takes a long time to do. If you're an attorney and you would like to give up some time, my attorneys are expensive, so I need someone that wants to do it for free, just a few hours a year. And you want to join a board, this would be a good board to start. I want to see this thing grow nationwide, but we're going to do 4 golf tournaments this year. They're going to start this spring. I'm starting to organize them right now, and I won't be golfing. I can't golf with the way my back is. Used to love golfing. But anyway, it's all for you guys to come have some fun, raise some funds for the Rocked On Cancer Foundation. But where I was going with this is the PFUFA that I had the amazing opportunity to join last summer with Megan Stefanski leading the Lions charge there. All 32 teams, man. It was the most incredible thing that I've seen. All 32 teams joined up, all the fans having a great time. And the outpouring of love and community that was there. I mean, giving back to the community, going to the J-Babe and donating all of our time to all these kids and giving away bikes and school supplies or jackets or whatever. It made me want to do more. So I also want to do more for that too. That's not just the Rocked On Cancer Foundation, but more for the kids. So we try to do good things here, regardless of what other talking heads try to say. We do the right thing. And you guys are a part of it, and I appreciate you. So let's give away this mini helmet to somebody. How are we going to give it away, Eric? What do you think? How can we do it?
Let's see.
Not like I can put 300 people in a wheel right now and spin.
You know what?
We got to do some trivia or something. This is how we've been doing it. We've been doing trivia. Big shout out to Andy Dulac. Since you put it in the chat, I'll read it, buddy. And he says, I'm currently battling stage 4 colon cancer. Dude, that is heart-wrenching, my man. I wish you nothing but the best. And if you want to email me at mailbag@rockedon.com, I'd love to have a conversation. Damn, dude, that's tough, man. That is tough. So a guy that we helped out this year with the Rocked On Cancer Foundation, he also had colon cancer. It's a different stage. And he ended up passing away. We knew that he was going to pass away. At least he expected it. And he just wanted money to help relieve the burden of his family having to bury him. And they didn't have the money for it. And so that's what we raised. And we raised well above his goal. We donated a lot of funds to him and his family and made it work. So that's the work we do here. Praying for you, Andy, man. That's tough, buddy. Wow. Trivia, what do you got?
All right. This season, the Lions, actually last season, the Lions broke their scoring record. And then this year, they broke it again. And this year was quite a bit more than last year. How much more did we break it by? How many points more did we break the record this year?
So the first person to put it in the chat, it's got to be the point differential between 23 and 24. What is the difference? How many points did we break it by?
Yeah, there you go.
You got to get the answer, Eric. I don't know the answer, so you've got to watch the chat. And whoever's the first one to put it in wins. Unless you've already won before, you know who you are. Text me the number because I don't know the number.
Okay, hold on. Got to write a few things down here. If my mouse will cooperate with me. All right. So as soon as I can do a little math here. That can't be right.
I hope you thought this one through.
I'm just looking.
I don't know what the number is, so.
All right.
I need the number.
So,
you got to text it to me. You can't say it out loud.
Oh, okay. I'll text it to you right now. I got it.
Yeah, you can't give away the answer.
And somebody put it in the chat already. Somebody put it in. Yep.
If somebody won, then tell them who won.
Okay. So let's see. So last year was 461 points to 564 this year. 103 points more this year than last year.
What was 23? What was it for? What?
So it was 461, and this year was 564.
So 103 point differential
from last year to this year. Yep. So I got to see who put it in first. I'm looking here.
Oh, there it is right there. Jerry Sandvig, you put it in, but before that was Lanner 420X.
Yep. Lanner 420X was the first one.
Oh, wait. Yep. No, he did it twice. So Lanner 420X was before that.
Yep.
And
that's the first one I see.
I don't see it in there by anybody else. So there it is, Lanner 420X. So Lanner, just email me at mailbag@rockedon.com. That is mailbag@rockedon.com. And send us your address, of course, your real name, so we can actually ship the damn thing. And we'll get this in the mail for you today. Appreciate you playing. This is what we do here, man. Now that we've hit 8,000 subscribers, this is what we're going to do. We got to stay above 8,000, which I don't think will be a problem. Now, I used to give away mini helmets every 500 subscribers. Well, I'm going to move the goalpost a little closer, and I'm hoping that Andy, like he says, moves those goalposts a little bit further away every year. I wish you nothing but luck, buddy. 250 subscribers. Every 250, I'm giving away a signed mini helmet. It'll be either Penei Sewell or Chris Spielman. And when I run out, I run out. But I always have plenty more prizes to give away. So send this to a friend. Your Lions fans, your Lions family, your co-workers that are Lions fans, send them the podcast. Send them some videos. We'll start doing more short-form content, too. And get them to subscribe and get in the chance to win. As long as you subscribe, you're good. But if you turn notifications on, you'll know when we do a pop-up live. And it's the pop-up lives that I just tend to give away stuff all the time. All of this wouldn't be made possible without you guys. You guys are the best part of Rocked On Detroit Lions. You always have been. Again, I wouldn't be doing this without you guys. I just started this as a way, really of therapy. And I had an idea of building a network and trying to bring people together and, get all the teams under one roof and talk about them. We're still going to do that. We're still planning on it, but we got sidelined this last year on our growth just because I couldn't do as much as I wanted to do. So now we're going to hit it hard, and we need your help to do it. So if you guys want to start a channel, email me, mailbag@rockedon.com. I don't care what the channel is. Does not have to be football. It can be basketball. It could be baseball. It could be UFOs. I don't care. Bigfoot. I don't care what it is. If you want to start a channel, you need some help starting and want to learn everything that we've learned, we'll help you do that because that's what we're all about here is helping you guys out. So appreciate everybody. Eric, final 30 seconds of the day.
Man, what an epic season. What an epic chat today. We had over 300 people for a while, hit 8,000 subscribers. What more can you ask for? Today's been absolutely awesome.
I would echo that same sentiment, man. Again, we're not this without you guys. You guys are wonderful. Wild card weekend. We're going to have some fun watching a lot of football. We got one more college game coming up. Don't forget to check out Talkin_Football on YouTube. There's a few more videos that'll be popping up today. So I'll give you a quick overview of what this show's about. They do a 90-minute podcast on Wednesday nights, and it's half NFL, half college. We then are going to break that down. You're going to have the campus visit, which is the college, and then you're going to have around the laces, which is NFL. You'll have the full 90, and then you'll have the 45 and the 45. They're kind of broken in half. And then from there, there's going to be segments within each show that we're going to put out for you guys so you can have the short form content, the long form content, and even the longer form content so that you can fill it all in. And then Riley O'Brien does interviews. So he's going to start interviewing more coaches, more players, and bringing that to that channel. And then, of course, we have Riley on from time to time. And that's the goal for that channel. So it's going to grow, and we still will need people to jump in. They are going to do some lives once in a while. They probably won't do lives every week or every day like we do, but they will jump in and do a live maybe every couple of weeks. But the goal is for us to do a live here soon so you guys can meet them. They are excellent individuals and extremely smart. Like I said, one of them has connections, and I'm not going to mention his name. He can do it on his own of who he's related to. So it's pretty cool to have that information and to be well connected in the NFL and have a different perspective from these fellas. So they do a wonderful job. And so do you guys. So let's keep this Lions Pride going strong this weekend. I don't know who you're rooting for. Put it in the chat. Put it in the comments. Who are you rooting for? Who do you want to play in the divisional round?
Washington.
You want to see Washington, Eric? I wouldn't mind seeing Washington. I think it's a game that we can win.
Yep.
But quite honestly, I have a feeling it could be Washington. Honestly, I would love to see Minnesota. I really don't want to see them again, but I do at the same time.
But if it's the Packers, I have something so absolutely amazing to wear to that game if we face the Packers. I have a cheese grater hat, and it's all filled with LEDs. Oh, it's so awesome. I would absolutely love to play the Packers again.
Well, they're kind of beat up. So we also had another milestone this week, over 2 million views that we hit, which is a 1.5 million just in 2024 alone. 1.5 million in 24. That's big growth for a channel that really didn't start on YouTube. October of 23 is when I really started on YouTube. The channel was created in January of 23, but don't let that fool you. I didn't do anything with it until October of 23. Yeah, we streamed. I did a show, but it was on Facebook, which was a waste of time. So I didn't really start on YouTube until October, and that's where the growth began. So 8,000 people in 15 months, 2 million views in 15 months. I'll take it. You guys are awesome. At the end of the day, we're all just Lions fans, man. Super fan, loyalty member, doing a show for you guys. But it's with you guys. So we haven't had the phone lines open. That's going to change next week. Phone lines are going to have to be open every day. The number is always somewhere listed, and it'll be open. So starting at 8:30 every morning, the phone line is just going to be open. So if you want to call in at 8:30, I'm just going to leave the phone line open. I'll remind you, but it's to kind of talk about what we're talking about or whatever you want to talk about as long as it's Lions related. That's our goal, because all the other fans want to hear from you too. And everybody else is listening wants to hear from you too, to get these, topics talked about. So there's a lot more that we can talk about than just what we bring here to the table. But all right, you guys have a great weekend. Tonight, probably be back for the weeknight show. I was going to do it on Wednesday or Thursday, just didn't work out. So I'll do it tonight, as long as I'm feeling okay. But we'll see you guys back here, hopefully tonight. Otherwise, have a great day. Andy, wish you the best, and everybody else, all the warriors, all the battlers, keep on doing it. One foot in front of the other. Until next time, go in pride. Go Detroit Lions. We'll see you later.
Big guys in the huddle, man, talking football. NFL, college, man, they cover it all. Feel the tension, prediction, and the call. Fantasy life and rise or fall. Talking football night and day. NFL and college, hey, hey. Bets and stats, they don't play. Fantasy champs on our way. Guitars, roaring hearts, beating fast. Catch a pass, score, man, have a blast. Three voices, keeping it clear. Listen up, the season's here. Guitars, roaring hearts, beating fast. Watch a past school man have a blast. Three voices keeping it clear. Listen up, the season's here. Talking football night and day, NFL and college, hey, hey. Benson stats